Photographic Education, who is hosting the event today. Welcome. SPE is a membership-based organization for those of you who are not familiar, and I'll be dropping our website into the chat window momentarily. A few protocol reminders before we get started. As an attendance taking sort of mechanism, we do ask that you put your name and your email address in the chat window so that we can share you with any updates directly in addition to any social media posts that we might make. We've started you all out on mute so that the presenters can begin the meeting, and then we'll open up to the larger audience once they've completed their presentations. So please stay on mute until then. Once we wrap up our presentations, we'll stick around so that we can have an informal conversation, and we ask that you present your questions in the chat feature once that begins so that we can help facilitate the conversation. We're in essence trying to break the chat window into an attendance block followed by a question block. We're going to give a little bit of time before we start populating those questions, and I'll put that into the window when it looks like we're ready to roll. We're trying to establish a way to move forward in this shifting time, and certainly the attitude that Betsy and John and I have had in these meetings that we've had is that we can do this all together. We imagine this will be a first in a series things to come. So again, welcome and thank you for being here, and I'm going to pass the mic on over and turn myself onto mute.
John, do you want to go first, I think? Did you? Or should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah, I think we should introduce ourselves, and I think the schedule is for you to go first, but
oh, okay.
I'm happy to do whatever.
No,
yeah.
I will.
You're kind of the one who started this by sending out that really amazing missive to Facebook with suggestions of what we should do. So I'm going to talk a little, why don't I go first? So my name is John Fryer. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Photography and Film at Virginia Commonwealth University. And one of the things that happened last week was that Betsy posted something to Facebook about her experience with online teaching through ASU. And she gave us a really great kind of checkoff list for things that we could apply to our teaching as we're making this transition. So, and she hosted a Zoom meeting just like this one. Was it a week ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, probably a week ago. Seems like a year ago. Yeah, and a bunch of us joined in, and we talked about our experience. And then Anne and Betsy and I have been working to try to shape the things. Everyone probably found out about this from the photographers Facebook group, Photography Professor Facebook group, and there's another digital transition group that's happening on Facebook. And there are a lot of great resources going through there. But one of the issues with it is that it's in a feed format. So, I'm constantly like finding something great, and then that's like 27 things down. So we're trying to grab the best stuff or things that we think are useful and put them into one place. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of navigate through what we've done. And it is a work in progress. It's just something that's like on the fly. We're building it as we go. So I hope it seems like a useful resource to you, and we're happy to add additional things. So let me see if I can navigate to, okay. That went to, all right. Are you seeing FotoFika?
Yeah.
Seeing it? Okay, great. So this is built on a class that I ran. I worked with an instructional designer at VCU, and we ran a class called Photography is Magic, which was a class that was photography for non-majors. And the mandate was to, we at VCU, our photo classrooms are full all day, every day. And we wanted to be able to offer a photo for non-majors class that didn't impact our majors. So this is a class that was designed to happen online, primarily online. It was a hybrid class. And it was a class that where the bar of entry for people to participate was just a cell phone camera. So people did have digital SLRs, people did have point and shoot cameras. We worked with them so that they could learn how to use them. But all of the assignments that I designed on it were designed so that you could fulfill them with just a cell phone camera. So I'll get to that at the end, but the reason I'm talking about it is that I basically used that template to build out FotoFika. And Fika is, I did a Fulbright in Sweden, and Fika is coffee and cake that people have at like around 2:30, 3 o'clock every day in Sweden. So I thought that was an appropriate thing for calling this meeting that we're having. I wish we could all have coffee and cake together instead of just looking at each other on the screen. So if I scroll down, and you can also be looking too, this essentially is Betsy's missive that she posted to Facebook. And there are great strategies thinking about teaching synchronously, asynchronously. I'm not going to go through all the details because I think we're going to be short on time. But all of the things that she posted there, I've posted here. I'll keep scrolling. The person that I developed Photography as Magic with is an instructional designer at VCU who's really into open source and open education. And he built this resource for VCU's transition. And, you know, so there's basic principles: be proactive, be compassionate and kind. We got to think about where our students are. They're in their houses, they're with their families. Like, we're all in ways that we have to really think about, like, where we all are when we're trying to deliver this instruction. And sometimes the situation, you know, where people are not going to be ideal for the kinds of things that we're asking of them. So we have to be flexible, we have to be calm, and we have to make our expectations fit with what is really possible in this kind of teaching environment. So the way the template is set up is that there's a place to put general information. There's a place to set different artists. So in this case, I just listed Anne, Betsy, and myself. And then there's tutorials and resources. So here's that if you click down, that's that whole online teaching guide. This is another amazing guide that one of my colleagues built. It's the Zombie Survival Guide, and it's specific to VCU, but all of the pieces are useful. Many people have seen Rebecca Barrett Fox's piece, which is about doing a bad job of putting your courses online, which in some ways is really about thinking about being compassionate to our students and really thinking about, you know, we can't expect everybody to be available at 9 a.m. when our class runs. Ideally, we want them there, but not everyone's going to be able to do that. Not everyone's going to have childcare for their kids. So, you know, when we're using Zoom, the record feature is going to be really important because there's going to be synchronous and asynchronous. And I think that has to be built into the things that we're doing.
I'm going to build a little bit on that idea too, about,
okay, great.
About doing a bad job.
Yes. So, you know, don't do a bad job. I mean, one of the things we talked about with the grad students yesterday was that, like, they're in a situation where people are coming in with course transition, and one, you know, in one class, the instructor has a whole, like, shift, you know, a whole list of what they're going to do. And another class, the instructor was like, hey, I don't know what we're going to do. What should we do? And that's not helpful. So as instructors, we do have to have structure, and, you know, we can't wing it. We have to kind of go in and set up a thing for this week, a thing for the next week, and so on and so forth, because they need, everybody right now needs some structure. So this is the basic list here, and I'll keep adding to this. And if there's something that you have, you send it to me. I'm happy to keep adding to this list as long as it seems useful to people. And then we've also started some sample assignments. So if we scroll down here, these are just different assignment ideas that we've had that I think Betsy's going to talk a little bit more about, but they're listed here. We have Rebecca Modrak on with us, who has this great assignment that we're going to talk about probably next week. But if you don't know Reframing Photography, the resource both as a book and online, it's a really fantastic resource for project ideas. She pulls from hundreds of artists and photographers to generate different project ideas. There's this great online space called Deep Space Gallery that just had a call. So I'm listing things like that, and you can see I'm working for the structure from the class, which is artists, and then there would be an assignment down here. So those are things I'm working on. It's just where we are right now. We're going to continue to add to it. And the only other thing I'll do is kind of go to the original site. So if we're looking at here, it says we all know photographyismagic.com. That's where I'm building FotoFika. And then here's the original site. And all of the assignments for that class are available for you to look at if you're interested in them. And the one that I think is an easy one to use is a project that I call You Are Here, which is listed here. And it's basically a diptych project where people are using their phones and they're photographing themselves where they are with the selfie camera, and then photographing with the external camera of where they are when they're being photographed. So here's an example of one of the students' work. You know, it's a selfie and it's raining. It's a selfie and she's sitting in, you know, one of those terrible buildings that we all teach in. It's a selfie and she's painting, so on and so forth. And these are photographs of non-majors. Here we are in the car, here we are here, so on and so forth. So, and you can look at them, you know, on your own time, because I don't want to take up too much time, but it's a really easy assignment to assign. All they have to have is their cell phone, which they all have with them. And it's really designed for us to think about that when we're making pictures, we're also in places, you know? So I think of, yeah, I think of a lot of different ways of you know, photographers who have made photographs of a particular landscape when behind them was industrial section. So thinking about like the choices that we make as photographers, this is a really nice way to do that. And I think that's, I'm going to pass it to Betsy.
Okay. Okay. So
and I'll
yeah,
stop my
thanks.
sharing.
Thanks for putting that together, John. And I'm actually also going to talk about an assignment. So I'm Betsy Schneider. I've been, for the past 5 years, I've been working to develop an online program for Arizona State. Kind of came out of necessity. My partner lived in Boston. I wanted to move to Boston. So I was a skeptical convert, and I remain, you know, in doing this, I teach in person as well, but I remain, you know, a little skeptical might not be the right word, but it's funny when that came out, the do a bad job. It was a bad day. I found out my daughter's graduation was canceled and I was flipping out, and I was so angry that I wrote this whole missive about not teaching it, not doing a bad job, and blah, blah, blah. And then I read it more carefully and I realized that philosophically, it's very close to how I've tried to develop this program. And so one of the things I'd encourage all of you to think about is, as John mentioned, structure is really important, but also understanding that the structures that we think we have to fit online classes into are often antithetical to what we do. And so not only do we have to kind of learn some new structures, but we have to learn them in a really critical way. And I think the first thing I would say to everyone is, trust your gut instinct in terms of like creative problem solving for this. Know that your ideas and getting the students to think and engage and go out and take pictures or stay in and take pictures is the primary goal here. And I think, and that a lot of the other things that we've been taught, especially as academics, which I think, you know, being an artist and an academic is actually like two almost, can be very conflicting things. And I would encourage you to trust your artist self in this adventure. So that said, that's my little kind of lecture about maybe for some of us, some of you, it's throwing away some of the traditional notions of what online education could mean, or certainly it's different from those required classes that we need to take, right? I don't know, fire safety and all those things that they, Title IX things, which are useful, of course, but this isn't, I don't think this is really for most of us how we teach or what we have to offer our students. So I'd encourage you to remember that what the students need, I think the most now too, is just like a place to tell stories, a place to have structure, a place to have connection. And I mean, of course, you'll all make decisions to what's important to be delivered. But one of the things I really hoped about meeting together is that people can support each other and kind of helping sort through what's most important right now. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to show you some of my writing. I'm sorry that I'm not as organized as John right now. And I'm going to go over 2 assignments that we've created for the program at ASU. One of the this 2 introductory classes, and one of the classes focuses specifically on considering the way digital technology has changed how photographs function. And I think there's a couple assignments for those of you who are kind of trying to figure out, just get some ideas. I'm going to go over an appropriation assignment. And let's see if I can, before I'm sharing my screen, if I can actually find, sorry about this. This is an example of my students who are in the anyway, sorry, I'm trying to find this is really embarrassing. This is not an example of how to do it. Okay, I found it. Do you guys see my screen, or do you just see John?
We don't see your screen yet.
Okay. Share screen. Yeah, so I really know what I'm doing. Just totally have faith in me that I know what I'm doing. Anyway, as I'm searching, I'm going to try to, because I'm a little bit frozen right now. I'm just going to talk about this. So the 2 assignments are, one is an appropriation assignment and the other is a surveillance assignment. And again, I'm going to post this later. And the thoughts behind these 2 particular assignments were that they are both concepts, certainly appropriation, that have existed in art for a long time. But that the ability to duplicate and infinitely reproduce has radically altered the idea of appropriation. So what we're able to do in that class is we introduce Richard Prince, which is actually really good because students have really strong reactions and they're able to start thinking through. But we can also introduce Larry Sultan and Mike Mandel's evidence, Penelope Imbricchio's work, Nigel Poor's photographs now of the San Quentin archive, tons of kind of like political, ethical concepts to think about, but they can also do the whole thing sitting at their computer, which you don't want everything to be sitting at their computer. But this particular assignment, I feel like really gets them to start thinking about a lot of levels of photography. And again, the point is, it's something they can do from inside their house. It also gets them thinking about what makes a successful appropriation piece, the idea of transforming the image into their own idea. In a discussion we had earlier today with Rebecca Modrak we talked a little bit about the legal issues, and you can talk about fair use. You can also talk about ethical issues, their own comfort level. And I've had students who feel very, very clear lines between what they can and can't use and what they have a right to use. And then there's the artistic, which is it good art? So I think this assignment provides a really great place to explore all of those things. And it's really simple. They don't really need a camera. And an alternative that I used when I taught at Hampshire College last year was we made collages. And we actually literally, the first half of the assignment was we sat down on the floor and cut out magazines and glued and pasted. And that sounds a little bit basic and silly. It was really, really fun. And maybe those of you who have kids at home right now, that's something you want to do with them. But it also gave the physicality. So one of the things I think, and the Hampshire class was in person, but one of the things that we risk losing with online is doing. So so this is an assignment that has potential to be just on the computer. It has potential for them to like go out in the world and collect those images. And I don't want to spend all the time talking about it. And I think we have this, we'd like to have a conversation about ideas about assignments. So this is just one assignment, but I picked it to talk about because I think it's got some potential, and I think you can probably make it manifest pretty quickly. And I will put it up, and you can use it word for word, or you can discard what you want or what you don't want from it. Oh, one more thing that it's useful for is if you have students who are learning really basic image sizing, resizing, making a PDF. It's got those things as well that can be involved with it. But the main thing is this emphasis on again, I guess, trusting yourself right now. I mean, I really do think and using your own kind of, trusting your own innovation. So I think that was my bit for today. That's my little contribution. Ann and John, do we have anything left on the list?
I mean, no? That's our 20 minutes. I don't know I think we should. What do you think, Ann? You're muted.
Thanks. Let's go ahead and open it up to questions. Making a break in our chat so that it's easy for us to find later on down the line. And we'll go from here.
And is Rebecca there? Do we want to say hello to Rebecca?
She is there.
You want to unmute yourself and say hello?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having this. This is terrific.
All right.
All right.
Here we go. There are questions coming in.
I think maybe people should say too, where you are. I don't know if that's interesting.
Yeah, we could. One thing with Zoom, if you press the space bar, it will unmute you for a second. So if you want to, should we do that? Why don't we? I think there's a lot of people here, but it'd be nice to hear who people are and where they're from while we're gathering questions.
Well, I'm Taylor Dabney, and I'm from Richmond, Virginia. So I'm real close to John.
I'm at Al-Shabi, University of Arizona, Tucson.
I'm Jody Hooker in Sacramento, California.
Rebecca Cummins in Seattle, Washington.
Hey, Rebecca, it's David Graham in University of the Arts in Philly.
Joshua White at Appalachian State University in North Carolina.
Hi, Donna Jones from Maryland.
I'm Thorne Anderson from the University of North Texas.
Jody Goodnow from Salve Regina in Newport, Rhode Island.
I'm Thorne Authority, also from the University of North Texas.
Hey, Thorne.
Hi, I'm Becky. I'm in Seattle, Washington.
Great view.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Ellen, University of Washington.
Hi, Ellen.
Hey, I'm John Malice from Loyola University, Maryland in Baltimore.
Welcome.
Hi. Hello. I'm Rachel Ferraro from RIT. Hey, John.
Hey, Rachel. Great to see you.
Hello, everyone. It's Steve Goff from Odessa, Texas.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, I'm Tony Pepe from Boston.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, I'm Megan Hildebrandt from Austin.
Hi.
I'm Andrew Thompson from Cal State San Bernardino.
Welcome.
One Davy.
Hi, Julia Staples from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hey everybody, I'm Arthur Fields from Vincent, Indiana.
Arthur.
Hey.
Hi. Hi, I'm Julie Simon from Baltimore.
Hi, I'm Timothy Briner from Brooklyn, New York.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Barbara Filion from Napa, California.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Raphael Goldchain from Oakville near Toronto, Canada.
Great. Nice to see you.
Hi, Rochester, New York.
Well, we know there are a lot more out of you, a lot more out there than are introducing yourselves. But I think for the sake of questions, we should go ahead and turn to that. The number of questions that are coming in about moving a course from the darkroom to online is the most prevalent in our chat feature right now. Thorne, I think you were the first one to address that in that lineup. How do we want to do this?
Should we, I mean, that seems, since that's the prevalent thread right now, maybe we focus on that right now. And we might not get to the other ones, but I think we could really try. So, and maybe we should, does anyone feel like they have an answer right now? We can start with like someone who has an idea for a solution.
I'll just go for a second. I mean, I don't think there is one solution to any answer here. And I think it's really important to query your colleagues and your students. We started with querying our students to find out how many had cameras that took their cameras with them home to spring break or are still here. And then we also, we had a very important discussion, I think, with our director, who felt it was extremely important that we try to give them as much of the content of the semester that we can, especially in the film classes, because those are very coveted classes that students really want to learn, and the digital thing is not the thing that they want to do for the most part. I also queried the students and how they felt if we moved remotely to digital or whatever. It was almost exclusively the same answer. Even though some students don't have their cameras, if some students can do this with film, they'd like to be in that discussion talking about film as they try to shoot, but they feel like they'll get a collective experience. So not a one size fits all, have a multiple approach in the class. We got permission from the business office to use fees that we normally use for developing film, for chemistry, and converted 50% of that we're calling. I'm making those calls now to find a place that will receive the orders from the students and upload scans. They'll also ship it to them, but to save time, upload scans. We cannot process as much film as we normally would in a semester, but this idea of slow and thoughtful shooting is really important for them, and there's some semblance of that content towards the final that they feel good about. And I think more than anything, the gesture of doing this and trying to do it has really comforted our students. I'll unmute now.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sama. That's. Do other people have, John, you want to talk about that scanner that you?
Yeah, so Kodak makes a film scanner that's a $30 box that's essentially a cardboard box with a backlight that's got the focal length of, and I can put a link to it on FotoFika, which would allow people to, if they were to get film processed, they could make a scan of it just with a cell phone. We were also talking about the ability to do cyanotype, which is obviously like something that our students could do with relatively affordable materials. But obviously that's not going to like totally be part of the transition. I think with what Sama said is really important is that like the efforts that we're doing to facilitate things for our students, to make them know that we are thinking about them and trying to make the thing work is really, really important. I've been meeting with my undergrads who have lost their exhibition, and they're really at a loss of how we're going to proceed. So the things that we can do to comfort them are looking out for them and trying to figure out ways to make these things work for them.
And I just wanted to add to that, one of the things that I think will be really important just in terms of watching this thread of questions come through is that many of us are teaching at universities with resources or student populations with significantly more resources than others. And so one of the things I'm seeing is a discrepancy in what our students might be able to afford to do. Like Sama, we're working with a local film processor to have our students be able to have their film processed and scanned. And the university we are as faculty are asking for funds from our university in order to do that because it is well outside of the means of our student population. One of the things that I think is really important is also the ability to speak openly and honestly with your administration about reassessing where the funds are going to. All of the buildings are now quiet. All of the electronics are off. So there are going to be resources that can be reallocated. And I think that's something that certainly there are some of us that can help navigate the language that might need to, or that might be helpful in making that happen.
I notice Payne, I don't know your first name, or says, I'm processing all of my students' film if they want to shoot it, making contact sheets and sending them home to them. That's a huge effort. Who is this person? I hate that I can't see people. I'm not going to complain about Zoom while we're trying to promote that this is good and possible, but another solution to this pretty significant problem. Do we want to talk more about this? Are there more suggestions out there? Are there more questions specifically about that? I mean, I also am converting. It's a hybrid class, so we're actually at the point where we're going to digital. I usually keep them in the darkroom most of the class. I'm actually similarly kind of struggling with this, and I feel like I don't have a clear answer, but I really appreciate this idea of really going to the students and trying to maintain it for them as much as possible.
Can I jump in real quick? I don't know if this is helpful to anyone. I teach a hybrid class as well, but we start with digital and go to film. And we were just about to go to film right after spring break. My students did not take their film cameras home with them because we hadn't given them to them yet. So I just ordered from Freestyle a bunch of packs of cyanotype paper. I feel like the only way they're going to get any sort of like hands-on experience that will have any connection to the darkroom is through that at this point, because they can just do them at home. And then I'm going to switch back to digital for their final project. I'm sending them the paper. I'm going to have them just like take photos of it with their phones and send them to me, talking about like typologies and talking about maybe making them into books. I'm not sure yet, but I also have a very heavy non-art major group of students in that class. So these are students that are taking it that are not really gonna go any further with photography, generally speaking. So I just want them to have a distraction at this point, I think. It's not a class that's leading to something else where they have to have a certain set of skills, so.
In defense of the hybrid, I do wanna say too, one of the most exciting things teaching this hybrid class that I've been teaching the last year or so at Emerson College is the combination of the two really does, it's a chance maybe to show the difference. And that might sound facile, but I think maybe taking this opportunity to show them that a silver print, I mean, if they already have made silver prints, it's really a great way to have a physical object in their hand that when they start to compare it to the screen, but I mean, maybe my true colors are showing, you can show them how much better a silver print is. It's not, I just would say that that's a potential to turn your class into a hybrid class, and know that it doesn't mean giving in to, it doesn't mean letting go of the idea of black and white silver photography. That anyway, just my thought.
Can I ask a question? Can you hear me? Yeah. So my question is, does anybody have schools that are worried about sending chemistry home or suggesting people to use photochemistry or even Cathinol in their house, because my EHS department is really nervous about these suggestions, even like cyanotypes or something like this. So that's my question. Having chemicals in the house, is anybody dealing with this problem?
I don't think cyanotypes is dangerous, but our director said no to the chemistry, leaving our dark rooms and going home. Frank Golke wanted to do that for his large format, and that's an unequivocal no. A 4-year-old finds that in the drawer and thinks it's something else and drinks it. That's all on us, right? So we said no to that.
But what about caffeinol? What if we suggest them, here, you can make this stuff out of household chemicals? Of course, it still turns into a dangerous once you've mixed it.
Yeah, I mean, liability-wise, I'm not sure what you want to do with that. That a cyanotype is the kind of safest way to go physical.
You're talking about the pre-made cyanotypes, not actually.
Yes, coated cyanotype where you're just rinsing it. I mean, it's you know, the trouble is that we come from a world of expertise that like it's going to be hard for us to share that expertise because we don't have the lab environment in order to do that. So, I mean, I think one of the things too that I want to recommend to people is that, you know, we have 5 weeks, 6 weeks left to the semester that we're teaching in. And what's important is what we do next, you know, the next time we meet our students. Like we really got to break this down into a day by day and a class by class. How are we gonna jumpstart these students to be excited about continuing in this environment where this is, you know, there's a lot going on in the world, and when we're thinking about like what we can get our students to do, like we also have to consider that we're in a pandemic and they're scared and they're alone and they're stuck in their houses. So like that also has to be in our brain. How do we get them to be collectively together, even if it is through Zoom, and share their experience? So, you know, if we can get our students to share with each other and us, like next week, we're doing pretty good.
Right. And actually, John, I'll jump in on that because one of the things that, and I know each of us is coming to this in our own time frame, but we are also coming to this in our own time frame being adults in the world and self-sufficient in the world. And we're looking at 18 to 22-year-olds for the most part who have not had to figure things out completely on their own. And so being sensitive to where their headspace is, I think is going to be really quite critical. Some of them are going to be very, very resistant to the idea of even being able to be creative in the time that's left in our semesters and quarters. Those of you guys who have really strong communities in your photo programs or your schools, you know, I would certainly consider also alternative ways for your students to get together, whether that's Instagram takeovers or I was telling Betsy and John that I'm doing this really silly thing every Tuesday and Wednesday morning. My dog has gone to school with me for 4 years. The senior class has had no other experience but having the dog with them every day of their college career. So we're doing ball time with Nettie Mae, and I'm having coffee and letting them just watch my dog run back and forth. And it sounds really silly, but it is something that they're so accustomed to in their socialization and in their college experience. My good friend of mine, Grace, reminded me that this is the class where Trump was elected in their freshman year, first semester, and coronavirus is going to frame their last semester of their college career. And if we all just take a downbeat with that and start to think about just what their experience has been, it will help us, and it helps to inform how we then communicate with them about how the optics of where they're sitting as opposed to where we are.
I want to add a little bit to that. One of the things that came up in my Emerson faculty discussion was Lauren Shaw has this great idea that the students will be making work about what's happening. And then another colleague thought, no, the class should be an escape from what's happening. And to me, that set up a really interesting approach that I would encourage people to think about too. If you some of you already have, But to follow on what John and Ann have said about where we are and what transforming a little bit of what this experience is going to be for our students. And I think there's a lot of loss for all of us right now, and disappointment, and trying to reset our expectations. And I think as much as we can make it work, I think that's great. But I also think we need to give ourselves a little bit of permission to, one, to feel disappointed about what's happening, but two, also to let go of some expectations, because things do function differently online, and in some things we're going to have to, I wouldn't say lower, lower our standards, or just. And in particular, somebody asked about students printing in low income areas. And I just want to quickly say that I have had students, if they have like a really, like a home printer, like making inkjet prints, making prints at Walgreens. I don't even know if that's feasible right now. But I just wanted to say that the idea of I would also encourage them to stay in the physical world. If that's important to you, figure out ways to get them to do things physically. Anyway, those were just some questions I read and the comments that I thought we can ask for some more questions now.
And I would also say, I mean, one of the things I did like Anne is that I just had an open session for an hour where my students could drop in, because they had not been in the same room together since spring break. And you know, I've connected to a recovery community here that's for students, and they basically have a recovery clubhouse running from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. every day. Obviously, that's staffed by people, but you know, when I've joined that, there's 10 or 15 people just hanging out, sometimes listening, sometimes chatting, just so that they're in their presence. And I think what our students are missing is seeing each other in the hallways. And we kind of have to create opportunities for them to bump into people, because like one thing that happens with these chats is that they're very intentional, they're time limited, and you know, it's business. It's built around business, and that's one of the things I think we have to resist, is that the tools that we're using are business tools for efficiently you know, selling things, and we have to break them a little bit.
The other largest sort of, or the most voluminous other set of questions is regarding, you know, the thesis. And I think it certainly is something that a lot of us are starting to think about. And I really appreciate, just so you know, that everything that's in the chat feature, we will be pulling down as a saved chat, and able to pick it apart. So suggestions that you've made will certainly post. Questions that we haven't gotten to, we will certainly try to address. Yeah, I think the thesis is definitely something that is coming up, and I just wanted to share a problem that has already occurred at my university. We had an administrator jump the gun and talk to our students about the ideas that faculty were spinning for their thesis as a replacement, and the students were furious because they felt like they weren't a part of the conversation and that decisions were being made for them. You know, our optics of what a book might look like by comparison to an exhibition or prints versus online and all the rest of it is not the experience that they're having. We've had to now walk that back from what felt like a very precarious ledge, and are having now facilitating conversations about the collaborative nature of finding a solution. But I mention that just because I think some of you will likely also encounter overzealous administrators inserting themselves into your classrooms and activities, and then also trying to find different ways to facilitate what for them was the end all be all of their college experience. Yeah, I put that out there as like, try to get them involved in what are their priorities. You know, the physical space of being able to share, not being an option necessarily. What's the next best solution to that, rather than a solution that we might think is most appropriate.
I just want to add to that, to Anne's comments there. I think that's what's probably occupied 50% of my time this week is dealing with the MFA thesis show cancellation, which comes on top of graduation cancellation, which comes on top of having to start, these are our graduate students, they teach our classes, so they have to start teaching in this middle, they're ramping up for their final, and then this all comes crashing on their head. So I just volunteered to be the liaison. I asked to take a meeting with them. I've helped our director sort of get a handle on what was going on, because just even floating ideas to the graduate students in a written form feels like they were not being engaged directly. So he wrote, thankfully, a very quick email saying, let's have a meeting and we can collaborate on finding the solution. And that was a game changer. I mean, it took him a few days to kind of get through it. And where we're at today, as conditions keep getting worse, and today they've been told they have to move out of their studios as well. I mean, they cannot go back into their graduate studios, which they have been able to up until today. Actually, the students feel much better, because the thing that they wanted assurance of, the 3 things that was their main components, they got it today. And that took me a little while convincing my director that that was the right thing to do, because it's on us to sort of, I hate saying flatten the curve, because all we talk about now is flattening the curve, but flattening the curve of the amount of loss this particular group is being asked to bear. So by spreading that to the school, saying that the incoming grads might have to share a studio for the first semester, so those who want to stay and continue to work, we had a lot of different ideas, but thinking about it as a shared burden that belongs to the School of Art and not just this group.
Soma, I want to build on that about the shared burden, or the idea of bringing the students on the journey as a way of using it to teach them, but also that I keep coming back to this idea of creative solving, and that we are artists, right? I mean, we are, and this is a chance to do some of what we do in real life. And I think encouraging them and trusting them, at the same time being really aware of their loss. And I like this idea of the flattening the curve of the responsibility. And I would say asking from administration, I also feel like this could get me in trouble if any administrators are here, but this also is a time to maybe push through innovative ideas, and a chance where we can do things without having to go through as many steps. And I think you should trust yourself, but I think there's some exciting potential here as well for trying out things. Anyway, that's just a thought off that, but I appreciate that, Selma, that your ideas about involving the students,
And we're in the same, I'm teaching the BFA thesis show. Their show was supposed to go up this week. Their reception is tomorrow night. I think they're going to have a reception on Zoom, like together. They're just going to dress up and be in their houses. But I mean, I do think that we have to give them a space to be involved in the decision making. And the thesis for us is we've set aside some money for publication, and our students work so interdisciplinary that a lot of them are like, well, my work isn't flat and I don't have it photographed. So I mean, it is a thing where we're working with them to try to best represent their work and disseminate it. So that's what I'm kind of pushing, is that we're going to work to make your work viewable in as many places as possible. So, I mean, I think as a collective of people that are sitting here, how do we share all of the amazing work that our students are doing with each other in a way that we could not have done when we were all sitting in our little private boxes, over the last, 10 years.
Can I talk about, I'm looking through the thread. I hope everybody's reading it. There's some really great comments and questions, but there's something that not basic, but something about running synchronous versus asynchronous. And I'd like to say that this may be, not that I'm trying to get everyone to come back next week, but I feel like I'm trying to teach the first synchronous ever online class, and nobody came. I think I did something wrong. I don't know, but I was super excited to do it. but it'd be interesting to see, because I think, see how it goes for people. I think there's a lot of factors that are going to affect it. I mean, I have students going back to China, which is going to make that, add another dimension. But I'd be interested to know if anyone started, and maybe that we continue a conversation about asynchronous versus synchronous and shifting up, because I feel like it's going to depend on the group of students that you have and a lot of other factors. Just throwing that out there. Right. Reading through the questions. Anne, did you find any other general threads that we should pay attention to?
Yeah, there's a question that's come up a couple of different times, which is best software and or process for conducting critiques online for those of you who already have experience in online instruction.
Well, that was my question, and I come from photojournalism. It's a little bit differently, and but I've done asynchronous critiques before using Facebook, which of course is a little creepy because it's Facebook, but it works because it holds threads. Here, if I can share my screen for just a second. That didn't work. But it holds threads very well, and it gives you precisely the number of subthreads that you need so that students can comment on a comment. So that's great, but there's other
We're seeing
tools
your
out there.
screen. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, say that again?
We're definitely seeing your screen. It's a
Oh,
screen
you
of
are?
all of us. Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, let me do this. Here we go. So, here's an example of a portrait, and we have, people commenting on the portrait, which is great. And you can, do alterations to the image and have sub-comments, sub-threads to that. Students are already familiar with it, but it is Facebook. There are other digital tools, and here's one that I've been investigating. This one is called VoiceThread. VoiceThread, gives you what looks like a slideshow, and students can leave verbal comments, and they can also draw on an image. I haven't used it, I haven't implemented it. So if there's anyone out there who has, I'd really love to hear about that.
I have.
Oh, great, tell me about it.
Yes, you guys, this is, yeah, this is Megan in Austin. I taught an online comics and animation course when I was at Interlochen in Northern Michigan. And for that, VoiceThread was for sure the best way to go. I would just say yes. And if you can get your administration to pay for VoiceThread, even better. I don't know, is it free? They just gave it to me.
There's an enterprise that costs money, but I think if there's never been a better time to ask my university for money for this kind of thing.
I want to just say VoiceThread was amazing, and not just because I was already working digitally for comics and animation, but I think it could work for any art form. So when I go back and talk to the rest of my faculty, I'm going to talk to them about, they're all just afraid to use Zoom, but VoiceThread it's when you're talking about the idea of everyone being able to post when it's convenient to them. It's not like you all have to be sitting there watching each other type, right? Because Zoom is great if I'm going to hold up my beautiful notes I've been taking to, and you all can comment on that. But if the screen freezes, yada yada, VoiceThread for sure. Also, I wonder how flexible Canvas is for some of this. I'm not sure. No, she's saying no.
Yeah, I tried VoiceThread years ago and it was glitchy, but it had a lot of potential. So I'm excited to hear that.
It has Canvas integration.
Oh, I'm going to promote something. I've talked about it before. I called CritViz, developed by an ASU professor. But I'm not going to explain it here. I'll put up some links. And also, I think Rosie, are you here, uses Slack. And she's been able to have a whole class basically on Slack, which does some of what Facebook does. But I think that there are some tools. But yeah, if VoiceThread's not glitchy, Summa, you said it's working for you. So
can I cut in? I just started using VoiceThread. I work in a department that has a lot of graphic designers. And I'm a full professor, so I'm having to do evaluation of our junior faculty members. And I have a graphic designer who's been teaching on VoiceThread, and it's amazing. I'm absolutely shocked. It's $99 for the year. You can put several people into it. I literally just set it up today for my own classes, but I'm also teaching video, and I just uploaded their whole last video project myself, and just started commenting on it. And I am really, really impressed, but it's a $99 thing. I work at a university that is in a financial hole right now, and they gave me the $99.
Wait, can you clarify, is it $99 for you, or, and do the students have to pay it as well? Or is this like you just pay your own?
No. It's $99 a year for the faculty member. The students pay nothing. They have to just sign up with their university email.
Okay.
Because then they can find the group, but it's worth it. For everything I've seen from my colleagues' class. I mean, I just went through and did her year-end critique, all on VoiceThread, and it's pretty darn amazing.
Can you confirm that it integrates with Canvas? Because I'm skeptical.
I use Sakai, so I don't know.
Okay.
What's your concern about it integrating with Canvas?
I mean, it's an easier sell to my university for one, but if it does integrate with Canvas, then you can make the assignments through Canvas, and it simplifies the students' experience because everything they access is through the one portal.
Mm.
And that's also a recommendation from the various things that I've been reading and posting for us, is that like try to work with your colleagues to work the same, whatever everybody's doing at school, do that, rather than having like 4,000 different, oh, you got to log into this and then you use this and then you use that. Like if your colleagues are using Zoom, learn it and use it. If your colleagues are using Google Hangouts, try to make it so that they don't have to log into 20 different systems.
John, that's a question that keeps coming up and came up at my university today, in terms of the chat features, FERPA and HIPAA. And there's been some concern at my university based on the thread that came through I'm not familiar with Canvas. So my university, as well as it looks like a couple of other universities, are questioning whether FERPA, Zoom meets FERPA standards, depending upon how it's used, perhaps. But if you have any insight, or if anybody else has any insight, I know that that's a pressing question for some of us who are having to online very quickly and don't have services like Canvas, don't have any learning software that is being provided to us.
It's, I've spent time thinking about this, and I think this probably is another subject that we might want to table a little bit, although it is pretty urgent. But one of the things I have, and maybe it's just my contrarian nature, is I do think this depends on who your colleagues are. Right. And if you're teaching with other photo people or other visual art people, fine. But what I've found is that continually the way we work, the way we teach, based on openness and exchanging ideas, is really different from this idea of privacy, like students turn in their paper and no one else sees their paper in other classes. And we function for the most part, in a really different way. And one of the most important things that we are teaching our students is giving and receiving critical feedback in a relatively public forum, in the classroom, in the critique. And one of the things that always worries me a little bit about a lot of the learning management systems is they're really not built with this understanding. And I guess that's it is my own political agenda. And I think some of you probably do have colleagues that you're talking about this with, but some of you may be the only person in your department who's teaching visual art, and you may have colleagues that are teaching in a very specific way. And FERPA is tricky because you want your students to see each other's work.
Yeah.
And, using Facebook could be an issue for some people. And I mean, you're going to have to think about it. But I think, again, back to, back to being nimble in your thinking. Anyway, that's.
And I would also say, one of the mandates for Photography is Magic was that it not really take up resources from my department. So I built it around Instagram. So my students generated fake Instagrams, which they all have Finstas. And we use, our university is connected to Google products. So we use their Google Photos as a way to submit things. So, they knew that what they were doing was public. And, if they needed to submit things that were privately, they could send it through Google Drive. But most of what we were doing was on the open web, visible to the world. And if you click through my site, I mean, you'll see that you can see people's projects and they're connected to them.
I just want to say too, Elizabeth, I see that you asked specifically about HIPAA and FERPA. And I actually think this should be a conversation that should continue. We should all continue to engage in, because I think we are going to have to go back to our universities too and defend certain choices we're making. I personally would hate to see that be, of course we respect their privacy and that's really important, but I also think, like, if we operate too worried about getting sued and all this stuff, that kind of freaks me out a little bit. But I do think it's really important that we communicate as much with each other about this, and we're able to articulate what we do.
Yeah, thanks, Betsy. I was just going to chime in really quick on that, since I'm wearing the hat of both administrator and faculty, and we're converting all of our courses online by next week. The thing is, it's coming from faculty. That's where that FERPA and HIPAA question is coming from. So
something that.
Oh, you're muted, Patricia.
Sorry. It's something that I'm doing. I'm teaching at ASU Polytech, Grand Canyon University, and at Mesa Community College. So 3 different systems, 3 different blah, blah. 2 are on Canvas. 1 has their own system. Zoom seems to be very easy to manage as far as critiques and sharing and letting the students have quick input in just like we're right now talking to each other and giving each other feedback. There's a feature in it that, yes, you can have a private conference with your student. You just have to be savvy enough not to include that recording in your class recording. And it's simple enough to turn that off. You can either record the session or not record the session. So if it's a one-on-one, I would say you turn the video recording off and you just have the conversation amongst yourselves. And maybe you have a chat or something like that. Why not write it? You use the chat feature if it's something that's a one-on-one thing, and you turn the video part off for that part. I mean, it's that simple. That prevents you from breaking FERPA. Does that make sense? And then it does work with Canvas. It's working with ASU's Canvas, but I think the school administration has to put it through your email for it to plug into the Canvas and work with the system. And it needs to be the pro version, not the free version, for you to be able to save a link. And the reason we're doing that is we have students that are all over that went home. And so we're in different time zones now. So we're having our classes during class time. And then we're recording the lecture and the exchange so that the student that wasn't able to attend during class time because they're on the East Coast or, something like that, they're able to then go back and catch up and maybe send something in to us to participate in the next meeting, if that makes sense. But I'm doing that at 3 different schools, and I'm trying to get people to just stick to one thing like you guys have just said, because some of the schools are wanting to let everybody do their own thing, and that's going to be so confusing for students if they have 3 different processes for every class. That's my only concern with some of it.
So we're past the hour mark, which was our goal to try and stay to that for the first one anyway. John, Betsy, do you wanna wrap this up? What do you wanna do?
I I would just like to say, I think I'd like to go through the questions, or we'll go through, and you know, keep this going. And I mean, maybe suggestions for next week too. If there's things, specific topics that we could cover, who knows? And maybe let's hope it's not a different world in a week, but you know, but yeah, thanks to everyone for coming and, you know, helping build more community.
Yeah, I mean, when we scheduled this, I was worried that it was going to be Betsy, Ann, and I. So that there's so many of you is really gratifying, and I hope that we were helpful to you. And you know, I think the thing is, our students, we want to work with our students, and you know, we want to support them, and we just got to take it slowly and take it week by week and day by day. So get connected to them, make them know that we care about them and we're concerned about them, both as artists and as people, and that we're all in this together. Like we're all stuck in our houses. We're all like worried about the future too. So like this is a thing where we got to let them know that we're with them, and we're going to help them both as people but also as artists to process the thing that we're going through. So, you know, we got to be flexible to look at the environment and respond to it. And one thing that Betsy said that I can't overemphasize is that, like, there's a lot of freedom in what we're doing. There's no script, and we're the best people to do this. Like, the administration is you know, they're running around, and we're, you know, we can do what we want to do, and we're going to try and see what works. And hopefully this forum will allow us to share the practices that will become best practices, right? We don't know what the best practices are yet, but through these conversations and coming back next week, you know, we'll have some practices that work, and the best practices will come out, you know, a year from now, from all of the different experiments that we're doing.
All right, I guess we have to end it.
I know, hate to say goodbye. But we'll go through. Make sure, Anne, that somebody captures that that chat thread before it disappears.
Absolutely.
And we'll post this, at least the first 20 minutes of it, or you know, some portion thereof. And thanks Anne, and thanks SPE for making this available to everybody and getting a pro account so that we could host as many people. And you know, if you don't know about SPE, Anne can tell you more about it, but there's also a link on the page. So thanks so much, everybody.
I just want to say to invite for next week, invite anyone you want. One of the questions really early on was, I have colleagues who are freaking out. I just feel like, just to reiterate, and we'll, you know, invite people, and like, let's spread this idea of helping each other, you know, to our colleagues and to our students. So, you know, yeah, everyone's welcome.
It is possible. We just have to do it in small chunks, day by day. And, you know, I think there's amazing possibilities that could come out of here. So, yeah, great to see you all, and thanks for coming.
Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
Where are the notes going to be posted?
So we're gonna we've got them on the
FotoFika
site, and we'll also be doubling up on SPE as well.
Thank
you. There'll be multiple places.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, it's nice to see all your faces, and hopefully we'll see you next week after we've braved a week with our students.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, guys.